Welcome to my workshop. If you're here, I already feel connected to you. I have been wanting to talk about marriage, relationships, and spirituality for so long. I just didn't know how to talk about it in a way that was authentic, where I could share real life stories and be honest, but without exposing too much and sounding like a hot mess. But I think I have finally figured out a way to share it in a way that is authentic to me and in a way that could be helpful to you. So, this is my first workshop, and I thought that I would share three energetic shifts that I made to reignite the connection in my marriage. And so, I'm going to show you how to apply that to your own marriage. But before I get started, I want to just share a little bit of my journey in my marriage. So, my husband and I, James, that's my cutie right there, we met online in 2006 when it was taboo, or 2005 when it was still super taboo. People were not meeting online back then and getting married, but he proposed to me after 3 months. 9 months later, we were married, and we have been together for almost 20 years. In the beginning of our marriage, when he was like in residency, we started having kids. We had our first son, and my husband was working 100-hour weeks. And so early in motherhood, I relied on my community and my circle of friends to support me through life and through things that I was going through in motherhood because my husband couldn't. And the reason why I include that here is because sometimes your emotional support may not come from your spouse, and you may have to rely on family and friends because of the different seasons that you're in. And I'm so grateful for that time. And it totally did help me to not have to put the burden of like needing him so much when he physically couldn't be there. He was emotionally drained, physically tired from working all those hours. And so I included that here because I wanted to just kind of share that aspect that depending on the season of life, you may or may not be as connected depending on what's happening. So, we also had moments of like stress, emotional walls, unmet expectations, setbacks from my past that forced us to have like real and truthful conversations that we didn't really talk about in the beginning of our marriage for both of us. And I come from like a really toxic past, and some things just came back to haunt me, which led us to having deeper conversations about maybe emotional things that we had been ignoring in our relationship. But because of that, it caused a lot of healing, and it brought back true and real intimacy. And now, like I said, we've been together for almost 20 years, and we are stronger and highly connected than ever before. And so that's a little bit about us and why I feel so called to talk about marriage, is because we've been through so much, and I want to be able to help give you any shortcuts and just help to take away some of the, maybe some of the burden that happens, that a lot of the pitfalls, to avoid some of the pitfalls that we made early in our marriage. And so this is really exciting for me to talk about this. um Okay, so the shifts that we need is to understand that softness does not equal weakness. When we become moms, it propels us into our masculine energy. And women and men both have masculine and feminine energy. And this energy, the masculine energy is the doer in you. The feminine is the receiver. And so the doer in you, this is the part where motherhood, you are running your household and you are making appointments, taking the kids places, doing the meals, putting them to bed, like all of that. And it does keep you in this energy where you are doing so much. You are probably overwhelmed, overexhausting yourself. And sometimes you become unbalanced in your energy because you're so much in the doer that the receiver in you kind of puts up a wall. And so, what is that receiver part in you, that softness that we're all looking for? The softness is being able to release that control, regulating your nervous system, letting him lead in his own way, and also believing him. And so we're going to go into all of these. And you might see yourself in some of these common mistakes that happen. But what's cool about what I'm sharing today is that you can go and apply them right away, and you can see a difference in your marriage. And so the first shift that I wanted to bring up is practicing radical self care. I put the word radical in there because I want you to know that it is that important. It has to be something that you fight for, taking care of yourself. I learned this early on. It was kind of like a little secret that that I like observed from like older women in my life. And I realized that so many of them were unhappy, but because they weren't taking care of themselves. And I knew that when I became a mom, I was going to prioritize that. So from the beginning, I allowed myself to do things that I loved, to be creative, to not let go of the things that brought me joy. And I didn't look at it as something that was optional. I knew that it was necessary for me. So for me, it was making that strong community, a network of friends. It was taking time to work out and to work on myself. I really enjoyed like journaling and reading, and I made time to be creative too. I got into YouTube at the time. I taught myself how to build websites, how to take pictures, like how to build my whole business. And I did it all from scratch. And so every time that I worked on those things, I just was like so happy because I was doing things that I love that brought out my creativity. Also, writing music was very big for me too. And so I really enjoyed practicing my creativity. And so the self-care aspect has to be something that you prioritize. And I know that we hear this a lot, but it's something that maybe you even say like, well, how am I going to do this if I'm super busy? Like you have to find a way. It has to be something that you fully prioritize, because when you practice radical self-care, and I'm not just talking about like bubble baths, doing your hair and lashes, it allows you to feel calmer, and you're going to show up as a better version of yourself. Hold on. I don't know why all of a sudden now. I'm not going to re-record this though. We're going to keep the ball rolling. Of course, when I go record, this is going to happen. But anyways, you are going to notice feeling so much calmer, and you're not going to be as depleted. If you want to see an unhappy version of myself, see me not taking care of myself. Like that is when I'm grumpy, moody. Like even if it's just 5 minutes, I have to dedicate time to myself every day. If not, I don't feel like myself. So energetically, this shifted me from burnout and from, not really feeling like feeling like I lost myself, to feeling balance. And when I'm grounded, when I'm nourishing myself with good foods, and I'm moving my body, and I'm doing things that I love, I practice more patience, more softness, and presence in my marriage. So taking care of myself doesn't take away from our relationship, it improves it. The second shift is stopping the mind reading expectation. This is a big one. When you first get married, it's like you kind of tell your husband all of your likes, dislikes, things that you need, don't need, and you just think that telling him one time is going to do it. I'm here to tell you that it is not. You truly have to stop thinking that he knows your every need. Even if you're walking in with groceries, to you, it might be so obvious, like, hello, get off, help me. We have to practice expressing what we need. I realize how often things like, if he really cared, he would notice. If he really cared, he would get up and help me with these groceries. A lot of times I thought, like, I shouldn't have to ask for this. It should just be obvious. We can expect the obvious. We cannot expect, with everything they have going on, maybe ways that they were brought up, like you can't expect that they are going to know how to fulfill your needs. And so these unspoken expectations create a slight tension in your relationship. And so when you can start to communicate clearly exactly what you need, so if you see them sitting on the couch when you're coming in with groceries, rather than saying like, hello, do you see me here, you would say, hey babe, can you get up and help me with this groceries? And of course he's going to get up. Now if he's not getting up, obviously that's a different story. Like this person doesn't care, but 9 out of 10 times they care. They just need you to express what you need. And when you express it clearly and calmly, and just saying it like, hey, this is what I'm needing right now, that's when you tap into that feminine energy, the receiver. You're able to express what you need, and you say, hey, can you help me with the groceries? They get right up and they will step up to the plate. So energetically, this shifted me from frustration into clarity, because now I get to decide like what my needs are, and I get to express them and trust that he is going to take care of me. And this changes everything. So there was less guessing, less disappointment, and just so much more just peace between us. And we felt more like a team when I just started expressing. That's it. Shift number three is learning how to receive compliments without deflecting or shrinking. So, how many times has your husband given you a compliment or told you something and you're like, oh no, I look fat? Babe, I really love your legs. This was a big one for us. He would tell me all the time how much he loved my legs. And I'd be like, oh, I know they're fat. When I started shifting to receiving compliments, I'm telling you, my confidence skyrocketed. I didn't realize how often I brushed off his compliments or put myself down and deflected them. Um, and once I noticed that I was doing it, I realized like that's not very sexy. Like if you're sitting there always feeling like insecure and putting yourself down, or worse, comparing yourself to other women and putting your maybe even past versions of yourself, comparing yourself to the past, that is not sexy. Like that doesn't exude confidence. Insecurity blocks intimacy. So when I started practicing letting his words land in me, so now if he's like, "Ooh, baby, I love your legs," I say, "Thank you, baby." And guess who loves her legs more? This girl right here, because I started receiving and believing his compliments. I started to accept them and then embody them and start living them. So energetically, I shifted from guarding my heart to allowing connection, which made my confidence skyrocket. So when I stopped blocking love, I finally found somewhere for it to land right inside of me. And that was like a huge shift. So lastly, let's integrate this. What does this look like in real life? So we went over three: practicing radical self-care, stopping the mind reading, and receiving without deflecting. So I want us to just kind of go over these. Practicing radical self-care for me looked like making time for myself and doing things that were creative. For me, that was the biggest thing. When I make time to move my body, eat good, and do things that spark my creativity, I am just a happier person. So you're going to take the time, even if you are busy, you have to start small. So if it's taking a 5-minute walk, if it's writing just one sentence in your journal, do not discredit small movements towards your radical self-care, because that's how it all starts, especially when you're so busy and you haven't been making time for yourself. You have to start small, because starting saying like, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym for an hour, it's too overwhelming. You're not going to stick to it. But can you tell yourself, I'm going to start walking for 5 minutes? 5 minutes, just get there. So for stopping the mind reading expectation, this is things like, instead of harboring those feelings, not saying, say, hey, can you take this off my plate tonight? Babe, it would be really helpful if, it would be perfect if, and then fill in the blank with what you need. So instead of building resentment, choose to be clear with what you need. And that will remove so much tension between you and your partner. The last one, receiving without deflecting. I already shared my examples of how it skyrocketed my confidence, but practice saying thank you when he tells you, or you know what I do? Even I don't even wait for him to compliment me. If I know I look good, I will come out of the room and I will say, how do I look? Because I already know I look good. I don't need him to tell me I look good. But I do want to fish for a compliment sometimes, because my husband, he isn't as expressive with his compliments, and I've learned that. But if I just initiate it, then he'll like, oh yes, baby, you look good. So you also have to know your partner too. And so you can, don't be afraid to ask for your compliments, especially if you know you look good. Okay, so none of these things are dramatic things. These are just small consistent shifts that can change the energy in your life together. And the more that you practice these, you're going to see, you're going to feel less exhausted, less resentful, guarded. You're going to be more present, more clear, more open. And that's when your connection is going to begin to deepen. So, if this resonated with you, I would love to invite you to join my magnetic marriage community, where we dive deeper into these energetic shifts that you need to make in your relationship. It's not about fixing your partner, it's not about over analyzing your marriage and feeling doom and gloom about it, but it's about making subtle internal shifts that create safety safety, connection, and intimacy naturally. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm actually really excited to show you because these are things that we're all guilty of. But if you can just make that subtle shift, it's going to make all the difference. The things that I practice with James today are not things we were doing 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. They are things right now that are building such a strong connection. And it's things that I've learned along the way. And I want to share that with you. So if you feel called to want to build a deeper intimacy and connection in your marriage and you're just not sure exactly how to do that, I'm going to put all the information below to learn more about magnetic marriage. It's an audio course where I walk you through 6 different modules with lessons to change the energy and deepen your intimacy and connection with your spouse. I hope you enjoyed this workshop. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye-bye.